Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My dad is going into hospice next week, but he's been out of it for the last 6 months. The house he lives in with his wife and 2 adult daughters is mine. I bought it for him to live in after my mom died. He spiraled for a bit when that happened. He lost his job and he was evicted from their apartment. I bought a small house in an older, safe neighborhood for him and his dog. I'm all he has, and I love him. 5 years later, he met Maxine, and 2 years after that, they got married. He moved her into the house. I didn't have a problem with that. First one, and then her other daughter moved in. Not my favorite thing, but not really my place to say anything. Everything was fine for a while. Then one kid decided that she was scared of my dad's dog. She got her mom to convince my dad to get rid of Donnie. My dad didn't want to do this, as Donnie was my mom's dog too. He was an old Jack Russell Terrier and was about as scary as a dog-shaped rug. I took Donnie. I don't know why, but this pissed off Maxine and her kids. Like my dad found a loophole or something. I would take Donnie with me whenever I came to visit. They always made a big production of it. Such a scary brute. Literally all he did was go roll around on the grass and bark at the squirrels. Like I said, my dad is going into hospice this week, and I went to talk to Maxine and her daughters. I brought Donnie to say goodbye to my dad. Maxine's daughter said she was glad that she would never have to have Donnie in her house again. I was planning on telling her that as long as she paid the property taxes, maintenance, and utilities, she was welcome to live in the house as long as she wanted. She had made my dad happy, and I was trying to be nice. I had my lawyer draw up an agreement that said exactly this. Her kid pissed me off though. I didn't even pull it out. I just gave Maxine an ultimatum. When my dad died, she had 3 months to either kick out her daughter, sign a lease and start paying a reasonable rent, or move out entirely. She said the house was going to be hers when my dad died, since they were married. I actually got great pleasure in telling her that it was mine. Not because anyone gave it to me, but because I bought it and paid for it. I gave her my lawyer's card and told her to check for herself. That was yesterday. She's been trying to call me all day today. I ended up blocking all 3 of them, but not before I heard all kinds of messages about what a jerk I am to do this to a widow and her children. Both daughters work, and none of this is really my problem. I was in my 30s when my dad married her. She was never anything to me but my dad's wife, and I never bothered to learn her daughters' names. Am I the a-hole? I wouldn't even let OP's dad's wife have the option of kicking out her daughter, because they will probably make an effort to conceal it from OP that she still lives there by going away for a few weeks and then returning when the dust settles. It's OP who bought the house for her father and let him use it as he saw fit for as long as he was able to live there. That time is now past. It is OP's house to do as she sees fit. In my opinion, OP is being quite kind in the timeline and conditions she offered. But I hope OP will talk to a lawyer about evicting them. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Rolling Through Life 79 says, not the a-hole. They are all adults and can take care of themselves. Pisses me off that they made your dad get rid of his dog. Odd your dad never mentioned to his wife that he didn't own that house. You'd think it would have come up in the many years they were together. Very telling that she just assumed she would get all his stuff when he passed. Horrible Wife 69 says, I would stipulate that her daughters are allowed to visit for X amount of days a month, but cannot live there. I would install cameras and take every precaution so Maxine is legally a tenant. Most leases specify how long a guest can stay, who is allowed to live there, etc. Pay them dust. They took away your dad's dog during the last years of his life. They deserve nothing. Not the a-hole. Baron's dad says, not the a-hole. Maxine's daughters comment about being glad about never seeing the dog again. Comes off to me like she's glad that your dad is dying, so that she doesn't have to see the dog. Even if she didn't mean it in that harsh of a way, she showed zero sense of awareness when it came to your dad's relationship with the dog. She showed no remorse in forcing the dog out of your father's home. You've given Maxine and her daughters 3+ months notice. That's more than fair. You didn't owe Maxine basically a life estate on the home. Everyone hits a tipping point. You hit yours. The daughters work. The house does not belong to Maxine and does not belong to your dad. You owe these people nothing. They clearly never built a relationship with you. They clearly put their own desires above your dad's. Instead of talking to you like a normal human being when they realized their housing situation, they immediately went into the manipulative bag of tricks. You should unblock them and collect the threats and name-calling. This won't be an easy eviction process. You should also be worried about damages to the home. I would try to document as best you can the current condition of the home before they do something rash. Basically, the title says it all, but here's some extra info. I gave birth 3 weeks ago to a child I immediately gave up for adoption. The father has never been in the picture. One night stand, don't know his name. I've always had a very irregular menstrual cycle, and around the time I ovulate or have my period, I gain about 15 pounds and experience nausea and fatigue. I was diagnosed with PCOS and a couple other ovarian uterine disorders, so this isn't unusual, and I'm under a doctor's care for them. I'm honestly healthy, but each month is a week of hell. Anyway, because of this, despite being pregnant, I still bled each month. Yes, it was a little lighter than usual, but because it was accompanied by the normal maladies, I didn't think anything of it. I found out I was pregnant when I was 10 weeks along and went in for a routine pap smear. My doctor always undulates my pelvic region because you sometimes feel tumors and growths through the outside of the stomach, and he ended up feeling my frenulum, this ridge that runs along the top of the uterus. At 10 weeks and greater it can be felt. Thinking it was a tumor, I had a blood and urine test followed by ultrasound. Surprise, surprise, I had a baby on board. I couldn't bring myself to have an A. It was like my whole world stopped. When I was 6 months in, I was matched with the child's adoptive parents, and the legal stuff was taken care of. But during my pregnancy, I had to deal with the dreaded questions and people touching my belly. During my whole pregnancy, I lied. I only gained 20 pounds and was a bit heavy before the pregnancy, so it wasn't like it was readily apparent, but some people are absolute guessers. Every time I was asked when I was due, I always answered, I'm not. The embarrassment of assuming a heavyset woman is pregnant and being told she's not is usually enough to stop the questions. But a few tactless people just could not let it go. I probably told 300 or 400 people that I wasn't pregnant while I was. Then I gave birth and gave the baby to its family. I'm getting asked about my new baby all the time and deny that I was ever pregnant or ever gave birth. But the fact that I suddenly lost weight but my boobs look amazing isn't fooling anyone. I don't have any close family, only child, parents and grandparents dead. But I have my friends. I never announced it or even told my friends. But like I said, in my case, it was obvious. My friends have basically began shunning me. They call my behavior weird and say it makes them uncomfortable. I was okay with how I handled everything at first, but now I don't know if I'm just hormonal or if they're right. Was I an a-hole? Not going to lie, denying pregnancy to friends was a weird choice. Random passerbys OP will never see again. None of their business. Friends? I don't understand why OP was hiding this from them. Pregnancy, especially coupled with PCOS and menstrual bleeding, sounds very dangerous and high risk. Imagine if something happened and OP was unable to drive herself to the hospital and she had to get a friend to help her. Imagine the awkward exchange of, "Yeah, I'm actually pregnant," and the friend staring at OP doubting her, wondering if she was lying. If OP was afraid of judgment or being talked into raising or deleting the child by her friends, she's still the a-hole because she assumed the worst of her friends. Rob5791 says, "No a-holes. Not really the a-hole, but I strongly recommend you get someone to confide in about this, whether it's a professional or close family or friend. I'm sure that the sudden bump to nothing is a dead giveaway to friends, and people might assume you denying it ever happened is the sign of an underlying mental problem. I feel like if you really didn't want the baby, then A might have been the better option, although don't know about the medical side with PCOS. But let's leave that there and not start that debate up." Unexpected Pasta says, "Not the a-hole, but the way you handled this is weird. Of all the lies to tell, denying the pregnancy sounds like the most difficult to pull off. You could have said that you had volunteered as a surrogate. That would have been a lot easier to roll with and harder for people to question. Going forward, you might just want to tell pushy people that you really don't want to talk about it, and that you thought your denial of the subject would be a big enough hint to stop asking. You don't owe anyone an explanation, but you need to be blunt if you want people to stop prying. You also need to recognize that some of your friends may not be as understanding as you'd hope them to be." I work for a local radio station. I'm still part-time, despite basically working as many hours as the full-time staff does. But I love the job and understand how competitive the entertainment field is, so I've never complained. Plus, my wife makes good enough money where I don't even have to work, but I still do. At my job, we have a lot of giveaways and contests coming up for the first time since the virus hit. So my boss wanted to have a video meeting via Zoom today at noon. Since my wife works all day, and I'm pretty much the primary caretaker of our son, Juan, I had to have him with me during the meeting. Noon is his most playful time of the day, so he's usually very active during this time. So during my meeting, he was making a lot of playful squeaks, banging toys, and trying to play with my laptop when I would have him on my lap. At one point, one of my coworkers, 27 female, asked if it was possible to have my wife watch him during the meeting because he was distracting. I told him that she couldn't because she was having a video meeting in the other room, and it was super important. Then a different coworker, 30 male, pointed out that we were in a meeting that was super important, and she should watch him for just a few minutes because it shouldn't take too much longer. So then I said, sorry, but my wife makes 4 times what I do in a year, so her job has a little bit more priority in this household. No one said anything after that, but there was an awkward energy, and I knew I had crossed a line with that quip. I then offered to mute myself during the meeting so they didn't hear me, which was accepted in a seemingly begrudging way. Later I received an email from my boss, 29 male, basically quizzing me on the meeting. And of course I aced it, because I know how to multitask with a kid. Even though I proved that I knew everything, I was told that some of my coworkers don't think I'm taking the job serious and need to do more to prove that. So am I the a-hole for saying what I said? OP could have muted the call from the beginning. If OP has a problem with his salary, then he should take it up with the boss. But that has nothing to do with OP's coworkers, and they shouldn't be fussed at about OP's salary for asking for less distraction during the meeting. Glib Turret says, "You're the a-hole for leaving your mic open when you have a kid in your lap. Seriously, just put yourself on push to talk. Everyone should be on push to talk anyway." Agent Tet says, "You're the a-hole, just because you have the ability to be flippant with your job. And you did indicate this flippancy 100% with your response. Doesn't mean your coworkers have the same option. It seems like they made it politely very clear that they'd prefer to not be distracted at work a few times, and their requests were met in the end, with you saying that the job isn't a priority enough in your world to remove this distraction from your coworkers' days. There were several other options for you, most obviously saying, 'Hey, sorry, my wife is in a very important meeting with some clients, but let me just put myself on mute.' But again, you decided to end this minor series of requests by throwing in an awkward 1-2 punch of 'I don't get paid enough to do that,' and 'my personal situation doesn't allow me to remove this disturbance from your workday. Deal with it.' Our 100th caller says, 'Not the a-hole. Your coworkers were either assuming that your wife's work is somehow less valuable, or they were saying that regardless of how important her work is, she should still be the one multitasking with the kid because she's the mom.' My wife had plastic surgery recently. We had discussed it, and I was against it. It was not my decision, and ultimately I had no say. She looks weird now. She had the fat sucked out of her face, lip fillers, a neck lift, other stuff I don't really get. She gives me uncanny valley vibes now. It freaks me out. She is fully healed now and wants us to go back to normal, like me initiating S. I've done so, but not as much as I used to. And when I do, I try and make sure there is very little light. It's been a few months, and I kind of dread having to look at her. Obviously, she has noticed. She's been bugging me to tell her what's up. I've tried telling her I'm just tired from work, or that I'm run down. Really anything except for the truth. She broke down and asked me if I was having an affair. I said that I wasn't. She asked to look at my phone. I unlocked it for her and handed it over. I wasn't worried about her finding anything because there's nothing to find. She spent an hour looking through it and found nothing. She asked me to explain why I changed. I tried explaining that I just wasn't that interested right now. Nothing I said was good enough for her. She kept digging. I finally told her the truth. I wasn't harsh or brutally honest. I just told her that her new face wasn't something I found attractive and that I was turned off. She asked if that's why I turn off all the lights now. I said yes. She started crying and said that she needed time alone. She went to stay with her sister. I've been called every other name in the book since this happened. Her sister said I'm a piece of crap for insulting my wife's looks. Her friends all think I'm the a-hole. I tried not to say anything. I can't force myself to find her attractive. I still love her, but her face is just weird now. She looks like the blue alien from The Fifth Element. Altruistic Baker says, not the a-hole. Freedom of choice is never freedom from consequence. This is the obvious outcome when not considering your partner when making aesthetic changes, especially ones as dramatic as those described. Hopefully she finds another Mondo Shawan to love. Petentro says, I don't know, man. My opinion is not the a-hole. You were against it going into it and honest with her after. You didn't go out of your way to be malicious, and you tried to not say anything about it. She looks like the blue alien from The Fifth Element. That's rough, dude. Don't go saying that to her, or you would be the a-hole. Willow Violet says, not the a-hole. I love my partner's face. I love the lines I've seen develop over the years. I love the way his eyes crinkle when he laughs. My favorite place in the world is to have my face buried in the crook of his neck, cheek to cheek. When we make love, his face fills my vision and becomes my whole world. I would miss that face so much if he changed it with plastic surgery. I would still love him, but I would feel like I lost something dear to me. It's her face, and she can do what she wants with it, but she underestimated how much you loved her the way she was. I understand.